My research, I'm working in two main areas in relation to tourism. I'm working on tourism policy, that's destination development, national strategies, policy instruments, stakeholder involvement, and so on the one hand. And then I'm working in a particular area of this, really, concerning place branding, where we don't just look at tourism, but look at how places try to brand themselves for all sorts of external users and internal users indeed. So this could be, the citizens within the city, it could be incoming investors or visitors, or attracting new people to live in a particular area and so on. There's this idea that you need to have a strong and unique brand in order to do that, so people know what the place is all about.
And can you give us an example for this kind of branding in there?
Well, branding is undertaken by all sorts of, big and small places. I think one of the most famous ones, and one there's been a presentation on by a Dutch colleague, is of course the branding of Amsterdam, where they used the slogan "I Amsterdam," which is a sort of thing about, Amsterdam, and the person is supposed to be one and the same thing, really. And therefore it's a sort of humane city, if you like, but also smaller provincial cities like the ones we've been speaking about in this conference in Denmark has been going through place branding processes, and these processes have been more or less successful in terms of whether it actually managed to engage stakeholders, whether it actually managed to develop a holistic strategy that would stand a chance in the marketplace.
And what is the impact of this branding strategies?
I think in many cases, I think it varies enormously. In some very few cases, it may have a marginal impact. In many cases, I think there's a lot of sort of domino effect between the various places. Think of provincial cities in any country, your own country, and if one starts doing this, the neighboring city thinks we must do this as well, otherwise we'll lose out, and then there's this sort of competition. And I think the only guys who are really sure to win from this particular process, of course, are the advertising agencies, who are in a sense providing a lot of the technical advice on how to do things, what to do, how to run the process, and so on and so forth. So it's really, the reason we are interested in it is not because we think it's a great thing and it'll save the world or particular cities or whatever. This is just, it's in a sense looking at a policy instrument of developing local areas, regions, even countries have been branded and looking at it from this perspective of people wanting to change the place or change the place change the position of a particular place in relation to other places. Now, whether it works or not, that's not our business. We're interested in why people are doing it, how they are doing it, what effects that might have, but whether it actually in the long term makes Amsterdam more successful, makes Aarhus and Aalborg, the two provincial cities in Denmark we talk about, more competitive in relation to, say, Copenhagen, the capital. I think that's a very difficult question to answer, and even if you try to follow it in a systematic manner, I think it would be very difficult. So in a sense, the actual social effects in terms of what the branding people tells us that the difference it can make, measuring those effects is a very uncertain thing. But looking at it as a social process, where people try to get together and try to make a difference, and some people are included, some are excluded, and so on and so forth. This is very interesting.
And what brought you to this research?
I was interested in regional development for quite a long time. I was interested in one of the big things in regional development was the issue of attracting investment from elsewhere, inward investment. That was big in the 80s when there was a lot of it about. Now it's not as big because there's not as much about. But this brought me into the sort of the parts of regional development, the instruments that are not just about money and building factories and so on, but the softer parts of it, the thing about the possible impact of the image of a particular region in relation to its development potentials. And from there, then of course, in the late 90s, early 80s, early parts of this century, place branding took off as a phenomenon. So I think I'm really researching trendy policy instruments. So if when we meet again in 10 years' time, I'll be researching something else, which is the big new thing, and maybe it's as much as branding in a sense in terms of its effects. Not very effective, but still it's a policy that people engage in and therefore it needs looking into. And that's what we do.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.